So this time, let us talk about the effects of fire. When we say effects of fire, we are talking about the result or the impact that brought about by this fire. Sometimes it may cause to loss of life or even damage to property. Because we all know of once a fire started, it will continue. It may propagate if this is not extinguished immediately. Okay, so when a substance burns, a number of chemical reactions occur. With, as I already mentioned to you, when there is a action, there is always a reaction. Again, when there is an action, there is always a reaction. We all know that when one object absorbs heat and when it allows the other elements present, it may also give a chemical chain reaction. It gives also a chemical reaction to the other flammable and combustible materials when it allows the three elements uh, will be present onto those objects. These reactions result in the production of flame, heat, smoke, gases, and combustion products. We all know that when fire started to propagate, what do we see? Flame. We also feel the heat. We can see the smoke. We even smell the gases, and we can see that there are some combustible materials that are being burned. All of these effects of fire are vitally important to firefighters and investigators who must be always prepared to protect themselves against them, or at least know and familiar what would be the appropriate approach to deal with those uh, scenarios. Next is the intensity of fire. When we say intensity, we are talking about the gravity of fire. Intensity of fire means simply how hot the fire is burning. Some types of fuels naturally burn hotter, more intensely than others. If the intensity of fire or when the temperature is becoming higher, meaning it supplies, there are fuels, more fuels that are being burned, or more combustible materials are being being burned that supply more vapor. Again, it's the vapor that is being burned. So what are the factors to determine the intensity of fire? Let us talk about the type of fuel and as well as the percentage of oxygen present. When it continuously supply oxygen, it may suffice to the combustion. It will support to the combustion. So there is a possibility that it will intensify the temperature as well as the size of the fire. Next, explosive limits. The term means the amount expressed in percent of fuel vapor that can be mixed with air to form an explosive or flammable mixture. If less than this amount is used, the mixture will not burn. Take a look also the what causes uh, the backdraft, isn't it? There is explosion when it reaches its limits. Sometimes also when because of the intensity of fire or the intensity of fire is higher, a possibility that may cause also a explosion is most especially on the flammable uh, liquid or combustible materials that releases more vapor and more it has a lower temperature that just as absorption of heat may cause explosion. But explosive limits more focuses on the amount of fuel vapor. Again, explosive limits it talks about the amount of fuel vapor that is mixed with air. Okay? Then magnitude of fire. This determines the size of fire. It is governed by the surface area of fuel exposed to air. The magnitude of fire is not always determined by the amount of fuel exposed to the air. So what makes it different with the intensity of fire? The magnitude of fire it shows the size of fire. While the fire intensity, we are talking about here the rate of heat energy released by the fire. Again, it's the heat or rate of the heat. How high is the temperature? Okay, while the magnitude, it talks about the size of fire or how big is the fire. But both of these, magnitude and intensity, is also important to know for the fire investigator determine to what he may or she may put into his report or into her report. So they may determine the what causes the that increases the size, the intensity of fire, and what causes why the fire becomes more bigger. Next is let us talk about products of combustion, which I already mentioned and discussed this in the previous discussion. So the products of combustion, first is the heat responsible for the spread of fire that causes injury when one is or one person absorbs or exposed to heat. Okay, so you know already what will happen when when the chicken exposed to heat, the chicken becomes fried chicken. Okay, so it may cause dehydration, um, heat exhaustion, injury to respiratory tract, as well as burn. And the next is the flame. When mixed with proper amount of oxygen, the flame becomes um, hotter and less luminous. This loss of luminosity is because of a more complete combustion of the carbon, which we already discussed. And even we distinguish flame and as well as fire. That when we say fire is the state of burning that produces flames that send out heat and light and might produce smoke. While flame is a stream of hot burning gas from something on fire. In short, fire refers to the state while flame refers to the result of his state. That is why when fire exists or when the elements of fire are merged together, then we can now see the product of fire, which is the flame. And the third one is the fire gases consist of mixture of oxygen, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, nitrogen, and finally divided particles, which is the soot. And the fourth one is the smoke. Smoke materials give off more smoke than others do. Well, of course, by because of the smoke, we can or the color of the smoke, we can able to determine what material is being burned or what combustible material is being burned. Okay, so by looking at on the color of the smoke. So smoke already appear sometimes even there are still a fuel that are being uh, released or that is when there are more vapors that are being burned at the same time it produces smoke that even when the combustible material uh, absorbs already or when all the vapors are already burned from the combustible material it releases smoke or there is still a smoke. Next is the protection from flame, heat, and smoke. In order to avoid injury or loss of life, protective outfit must be worn. Well, of course, those are fire resistant. Okay, that even you are exposed to fire, of course, you will not easily get burned. So that is being used to save lives, even there is a fire or even the building is on fire. Well, of course, they must to take note how the intensity and magnitude of fire. They must have to consider that. So before entering a space where a fire exists, pant legs should be tucked into socks, collar should be buttoned. Remember, when just a single, let's say for example, a small piece of paper is easily being burned than those compressed paper. So much better do not allow even a single thread of your cloth is out or even untuck. When you allow yourself untuck your clothes, some of the thread of your clothes exposed to heat, the possibility that your uh, clothes may get burned. So one should wear asbestos gloves, a helmet, and a headlamp, an oxygen breathing apparatus. Which someday we will discuss about the equipment and as well as protective clothes of the firefighters. The flame and the heat from a fire are intense, but proper dress will help to prevent burns. Again, proper dress does not mean that you will just wear and you are already okay, but you must wear it properly and you must wear the proper dress. Does not mean that you just wear any dress. The smoke will make it hard to see and hard to breathe, but the OBA or the oxygen breathing apparatus and the headlamp will help the person to cope with those problems. Of course, it's just few minutes. It does not stay long for how many hours. No, there is also a limit on the use of oxygen breathing apparatus. We even had this training with the BFP, which I also give credit to the Bureau of Fire Protection, who gave us and lent us the training, which we also experience how hard it is when you have enough, you don't breathe enough oxygen when you only have just a few hole where you can only inhale. It's hard, so do not say it is easy to become a firefighter personnel. So let us give our gratitude and show our gratitude to for the firefighters for saving the lives of others, even their life is at risk. Next is the insufficient oxygen. Fire consumes innermost amount of oxygen, which I already explained it. I showed and explained to you. But 21% is the normal in human beings can breathe. work best, and 17% people breathe a little faster and deeper. 15% a person is likely to become dizzy, having a buzzing in his ears, have a rapid heartbeat, and headache. At this amount or less, it will not support combustion. 9% unconscious may occur, and 7% or less death is likely to occur. But in relation to support to combustion, I have already shown to you and discussed those percentage of oxygen when and may not, and when it may support and when it may not support combustion. Again, please go back again, watch again those previous recorded discussions that I made, okay, pertaining on the oxygen or amount of oxygen that may suffice or may support combustion. Next is the combustion gases or carbon monoxide. It produced when there is not enough oxygen for the complete combustion of all the carbon in the burning material. A colorless, odorless, tasteless, and non-aerating gas, which I already discussed and distinguished carbon monoxide from carbon dioxide. Okay, so deadly even a small concentration, but it is more carbon dioxide does not actually same effect with the carbon monoxide because carbon monoxide is more toxic. 1.28% concentration of carbon monoxide in the air can cause unconscious after 2 or 3 breaths and will probably die in 1 to 3 minutes, depending on the respiratory of a person. Because some is just few seconds, they may faint when they don't have enough oxygen to breathe, especially those persons who have this heart problem or have a difficulty on breathing. Next, at 12.5 to 74% by volume mixed with air will set off a violent explosion when exposed to spark or flame. That is is the carbon how dangerous is the carbon monoxide. Next is the combustion gases, hydrogen sulfide. Colorless gas in low concentration, it smells like rotten eggs. So it is irritating to the respiratory tract. Okay? Generated in some fires, it also occurs as the result of the rotting of foods, cloth, leather, and other organic materials. 4.3 to 46% is violently explosive in the presence of flame. 0.01% extremely poisonous if breathed. Acute poisoning results from breathing hydrogen sulfide in a larger concentration. Then 0.07 to 0.10% of hydrogen sulfide, it is the rapid unconsciousness, cessation of breathing, and death can occur in a very few minutes. That is why that is already death caused by asphyxia. And then the last one is the carbon dioxide still under the carbon combustion gases, which I will reiterate that we had already distinguished these two, the carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide. Carbon dioxide is a colorless and odorless gas that is formed by the complete combustion of the carbon. Carbon dioxide is not poisonous, whereas the carbon monoxide is poisonous, that is why deadly. The main danger is it does not provide oxygen to breathe, and asphyxiation may result when you are exposed to it. You can still breathe. Unlike the carbon monoxide, it's hard for you to, or you may find difficulty to breathe. It's just for few seconds. But carbon dioxide, you can still breathe. However, if you are already exposed under when the air is already covered with carbon dioxide, you may also faint because of asphyxiation. It is danger is greatly increased because carbon dioxide is colorless and odorless, does not give any warning, yes, of its presence even when it is present in dangerous amount. Unlike carbon monoxide, you can smell how toxic it is. You know already that it is danger to stay and exposed under the toxic gases. So you have a chance to get away or even to make a plan to escape. Unlike carbon dioxide, you don't know that you are already uh, under the stage of uh, danger zone. Okay, so that is for the lesson 4. Thank you so much.